friends, welcome to TechNoise channel. Today we will discuss part 2 of JSX tutorial series. Here we will discuss about style in JSX, and we'll discuss about how we can use comment, and we'll loop various list element using the traditional for loop as well as new map syntax. And we'll discuss another concept known as React fragment and why it is used. And finally we'll discuss about accessing children node. So let's start with an index.html file. Here we'll write some HTML markup with some title tag, and inside the body we'll create a division with ID root, and using script tag we'll include React core, React DOM, and Babel using the script tag for the learning purposes. But for the production usage or for the real application, I would recommend you should use Webpack. And finally, we'll include app.js using the script tag, and make sure that you mention the type as the text/Babel. And we'll write an optional style element with darker background and lighter color. Now let's create a app.js file. Inside app.js file, we'll create a functional component, myTitle, where we'll return h1 tag, TechNoise mastering JSX. And using React DOM.render method, we'll render this myTitle component and attach to the document.getElement by ID root. And once you do the save and reload, the TechNoise mastering JSX will be printed on the right hand side. That means our JSX setup is working fine. And if you know, in HTML we're using class attribute, but whereas in React we have to give class name. We cannot use class because the class keyword is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, and this JSX, whatever we are returning, is eventually will be translated into the pure JavaScript code. That is the reason we have to use class name instead of class. Okay. So now in the h1 tag, we have used class name attribute is equal to title. And in the index.html style attribute, let's change .title to color as tomato. And you can notice in the right hand side, the color of the title is got changed to the somewhat orange color. And let me pull out the inspector tab. Here you can notice class name is converted into the class attribute in the actually DOM. And I will try to provide a style attribute, right? So here, for example, we'll give background hyphen color equal to blue. But in the right hand side, if you notice, the screen is empty. That means there is some error. Because in the React, we cannot able to specify hyphen. Okay. To fix this, let's change this hyphen to the color, camel case notation. And this is the correct way to use the keyword background color. And if you notice, we are using two curly brackets, right? The first curly bracket is used for the JavaScript expression, and the second curly bracket is to embed this object notation. This background blue is the key value pair in the object. Just to make it simplify, and we will, instead of writing this two curly bracket and confusing syntax, we'll create a constant known as styles. You can give any variable name or constant name. There we pass all the key value pair, background color and other attribute we can specify. So in that h1 style attribute, inside the curly bracket, we'll give the styles will be replacing this object, and just change it to styles. And if you can see, the background color got changed to yellow. And if you change background color to gray and save and reload, and this color, you can notice that it is changed to gray. And now let's discuss about how we can pass comment. So if you would like to specify a comment inside a JSX element, for example, in this case in myTitle in h1 tag, so we have to use normal style like /* and followed by the comment, then closing with asterisk and /. There is no change. Okay. But if you like to, specify the JSX comment or comment inside the child element, we have to use the JavaScript curly bracket notation, right? So this is very important. But in the earlier case, we no need giving curly bracket. We directly, give the comment. So this is the point you should remember. Now just clean up a little bit and remove the comment. I hope you understood that how to use comment. And I'll just clean up the code a little bit and create a header functional component. And inside the render, I'm using header, and my title I moved to inside the header element. So in the right hand side, if you see, nothing get changed. It's just a reorganization of the code so that I can introduce some more new concept. So I'll create another functional component, employee list. There we'll deal with the employee array using some kind of for loop and map functionality. And inside this employee list, we'll define a list of employee with 3 objects like name, Steve, John, and Rahul. We provide ID attribute and name. And this is an array. So we have a number of elements. So we'll use a traditional for loop to iterate among this array and create a li elements for the same. And we'll display on the right hand side. Okay. And also I'll show you how to use using the map, which is a new style of looping it in React and the ESS 5 syntax. I'll create an empty array employees where we'll store the data, and I will loop using the traditional for loop I equal to 0 till this length of the list of employee, and I'll fetch this list of employee object based upon the I and store in a temporary constant emp. And if you see this emp, if I equal to 0 will point to the first, and if I equal to 1 point to second, and if I equal to 2 is point to 3, and so on. Now here, this is very important to understand. Employees, we have an array, and we will post, and inside the post we are not specify the string or object. We can add a li element to another array, because this we are dealing with JSX, and Babel will help us to translate to the corresponding JavaScript element. So in the li tag, this looks like a HTML tag. Inside the key, we are providing emp.id, and as a value, we are giving emp.name. So we are creating this li tag. Okay, this is for the 3 times it will iterate, and this li tag will be created. And we are returning an UL tag. Inside the UL, we are adding that employees, because employees will have 3 li element will be replaced. Now seems like there is some error, and actually in the list of employees I have used object notation. I should use square bracket to convert it to array. It should be fine, and now looks like it's fixed. And in the right hand side, you can see the Steve, John, and Rahul got displayed. So now let's discuss about how we can use map syntax. For using map, we directly use this list of employees. There is no need for any temporary array. So whichever the array we would like to deal with, we can directly access, and we can call .map method. Okay, and inside that map method we have to pass another callback function, and we can pass number of argument. Mostly the first one is the individual item, second one is the index, but for this case we are only passing this emp, and the JavaScript will loop through each, and it will pass Steve, John, Rahul one by one. Okay, then once we have access, we can do whatever we would like to do. And exactly, I just copy paste this li element. There won't be any change because the same emp object will be passed here. Here, if you notice, the map is a new functionality which is introduced in ES5, and for each item emp will be initialized and passed to the loop. And to return the keyword is very important, because if you see earlier we have not written, we have added into the array. So even though you embedded inside the UL element, if you forget to return, so nothing will be displayed. Okay, so this syntax or this approach is much more simple and concise than using the traditional loop. So most of the time you will see this approach, people are using it. Okay, so now you learn about the looping. Now see, we'll discuss about React fragment, how we can use. So if you notice here in the header, we are not directly passing my title and employee list, but we are wrapping inside a division tag. This is an extra markup. Okay, let's say if you would like to get rid of this div, so there is some syntax error, in the right hand side in the console. And if you notice here, the syntax error is showing that did you want to use JSX fragment? It is given as some tip or hint. So let's use this notation. So here we are using some empty element. This is not at all standard by HTML. So this is the convention, is new convention added by React and JSX syntax. So if you save and reload, so the error is gone, and we can able to see that title and the list got displayed correctly. So this is the short form of the react.fragment. So instead of this empty array, if you would like to, you can use react.fragment as well. So if you notice in the inspector here under the division.id root, you can directly see that h1 tag corresponding to my title and ul tag corresponding to employee list, but there is no additional div tag we need to generate. Okay. So now let's change to react.fragment, and if you see and reload the page, nothing got changed. So you can able to see this Steve, John, Rahul displayed appropriately. So it is up to you which syntax you are more comfortable in. So we can pass as an array syntax as well. So instead of using the parenthesis, I have converted into square bracket notation, and here my title and employee 2 element I am passing. So this is, we can return an header element. So as an array we can pass, but one important thing to note here, we have to pass comma to separate between two elements. Now let's convert back to this our fragment notation. So if you see this, my title is empty. Okay, let's pass some value, or learning is simple, or some kind of text element here. Okay, and also at the same time we'll add another attribute, channel as tech noise. So this channel is known as properties, props or attribute, and learning is simple is a text node inside my title. Okay, so we can access channel using props.channel, whereas if you would like to access this learning is simple, this text node, we have to use props.children. Now let's move to my title, and if you would like to access props, we have to pass as an input argument equal to props, and anywhere if you like, for example here in the children of h1 tag, I'm accessing props.children. Okay, sorry, props.channel to access this tech noise field, and then save and reload, nothing got changed. In the right hand side you can see the display the output result. And let me create another h2 tag. Here using props.children, I'm trying to access this text node, and if I do save and reload, there is some error. The reason behind it, we cannot pass multiple element h1 h2 tag, and we have to use this react fragment concept over here also. And save and reload, you can see the learning is simple is being displayed in the right hand side. Simple is being displayed, and we can also pass the text node not only as a simple text, but also using JavaScript expression with single quote. Okay, so in that if you save and reload, nothing got changed. Now this clean up these properties, because we will concentrate mostly on the children now. And if you use learning.simple, here we can use any kind of JavaScript function. This will open a plethora box, so we can manipulate the string whatever our need is. Okay, now for the simple case, we are using two lowercase and save and reload. So we can use any string function over here, and if you see in the right hand side, this lowercase is converted. Now we can change to uppercase, and you can notice this learning is simple is in uppercase now. So that means we can pass any, let's clean up a little bit, and I will explain some other concept, how we can pass callback function inside the children. Okay, now I define a city list. I cleaned up the my title and employee list, so I created a city list function component, and I accessing it using header. And inside the city list, I am returning a H1 tag wrapped by division. Inside that, I am using another functional component city. We have not yet implemented it. So here we see this my city, and inside this city, we are returning inside city list. We are creating another inside city list component. We are using another functional component city. We have not yet implemented. Here inside city list component, we have used H1 tag, and below that we have referred to city, another individual functional component. And inside the city component, we are passing props, and we are trying to return H2 tag, where we are trying to access props.children. In this case, props.children is my city. So in the right hand side, if you see that, my city is being displayed. Okay. So this my city is a text node, and where we can also pass any function also. That's what we are going to see in a minute. So using this, if you like to pass a function, using this props.children, we can call to that function, right? Which this function is, in a JavaScript terminology, is known as a callback function. So now let's, instead of text node, we using the JavaScript expression. So inside city, using JavaScript expression, we give the function name build city. The build city is a function we have not yet defined. So let's implement function build city, and inside that we'll return, some text. S3 is Sydney. So inside city we are passing, but how we can access it? Let's see it. So inside this props.children, we have to just change to a curly bracket, like we call any other function. So if you see in the right hand side, is Sydney is being displayed. So I have changed the content to my city is Sydney. So the my city is Sydney is displayed. So if you see this inside the city list, city component, the build city is being referred to the function build city, where we are returning any S3 tag. Okay, this is the method. And if you see the way to call it, using the props.children, using the simple parenthesis, that is the way we can call this build city automatically on the runtime. So if you see, the city tag is returning S2, and inside this S2 will be rendered, and props.children, this S3 also will be rendered. Okay. So if you see in that S2 and S3, the hierarchy is being created. So if you, let's say, we would like to pass some parameter, so we can pass in the props.children, we can pass any string or whichever the argument this build city is supported. And in the build city, we access this city as an argument, and instead of Sydney hard coded, we pass this city as a curly bracket. So instead of S3, let me change it to paragraph, because that is more appropriate. And if you see in that my city is Jaipur is being displayed, right? Now I feel that we know how we can call a function and how we can call an argument. Now let me deals with a little bit advanced concept. In the city, I am providing a number of cities argument. So based upon the argument, this build city will be rendered. And this is a little bit advanced concept. Usually in most of the use case, you may not use it, but for some special case or some kind of more customization, you may want to learn this concept. Okay. So let me pass a number of cities 3. So I would like this build city and this city component to be rendered that many times. So just provide a static values in the list cities like Jaipur, Hyderabad, Chicago, and Sydney. This few element, and we would like to render 3 of them. And if you change this number of cities, it should change accordingly. So now let me define a items empty array and use a traditional for loop. So if you notice over here, inside the for loop, I am adding the result of the function call. Here I am not using this props.children as a text node. Here I am using this props.children as a function call. Here I am passing 2 arguments. One is list of cities, another one is index. Okay. And inside this UL tag, I am passing these items. And in the build city, let me add another parameter, index, and convert the paragraph tag to, a li element in the build city. Okay. Now let me slow down a little bit. Here in the right hand side, you can see the Jaipur, Hyderabad, Chicago displayed, and list of cities again I converted from object notation to a square bracket notation. So here in the list of cities, we have 4 elements and it is the array. Okay. And here num cities we pass as 3, and the way we access using the props.numcity, we access that argument or the properties. So that for loop will be looped 3 times. Okay. If you change this num cities to 2, then for loop will be executed 2 times. If you change it to 5, it will loop to the 5 times. So we can control how many times it will be getting called from the calling function. Okay. So in this case, the list of cities, if I equal to 0, which will refer to the Jaipur. If I equal to 1, it will refer to the Hyderabad. At the same time, I will be looped through 0, 1, 2, and the number of times for loop will be executed. Okay. Now this props or children is referring to the build city, because that is the loop back call. And this list of cities will be mapped to the city, and I will be mapped to the index. So just remove the clutter for a bit. And I believe that you understood this props.children is the build city, the callback function. And whereas this the result of build city, the li tag will be added into the items array. And finally, this 3 li element will be created one by one, each corresponding to Jaipur, Hyderabad, Chicago, and that will be again attached to the ul element as part of items tag. And this ul tag will be written, and inside the division tag it will be appended. So that is the reason we can able to access Jaipur, Hyderabad, and Chicago here. So I think this is a little bit confusing or advanced concept. Hope you just slow down a bit and try to understand. It will be more clear to you. So with this, we'll complete today's video tutorial about the JSX part 2. In this next video, we'll discuss about conditional rendering. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye.